Alright, here's vocabulary lesson number 3. This is your last of the 3 videos that you need to study for your very first vocabulary additional assessment. So let's look at the last 20. Alright, so your first word is going to be prodigal, which is an adjective. So you might have heard prodigal before in the phrasing, the prodigal son. You might not actually have known what that meant. So prodigal is extravagant or wasteful. So here we have the sentence, William's prodigal spending habits were difficult to break, resulting in the loss of almost all of his inheritance. So prodigal is given to wasteful expenditure. Therefore, when you say a prodigal son, that actually is talking about a son who inherits money and then wastes that money. So now you know what it means if you didn't know before. All right, so going to our next word, we have assess, which is a verb, to estimate the value of, to measure. So you assess a situation. So here we have Li Shang assessed Ping's poor performance and determined that he was a terrible warrior who needed much training. So here, since assess is a verb, we can say assess, assessed, assessing, and other tenses. So with assess, know that it doesn't really have any positive or negative connotations. It depends the context in which you're using the verb. All right, so next word we have is deter, which is another verb. So we're getting our verbiage on. So to prevent, especially by threatening. So you, again, deter a situation. So here we have the beware of the dog sign was intended to deter trespassers. However, it wasn't very effective. Look at his cute little face. Yeah, it's not very scary. So here, deter means to prevent through threat, but it's not very effective because this dog is not very threatening. Deter sounds a lot like detour because detours are intended to prevent people from going through a specific area. So there is a connection there. All right, so next we have complacent, which is an adjective, which is smug, self-satisfying, overly confident. So complacent is clearly a negatively connotative word. Here we have the antelope was complacent when drinking from the river. He was certain the lioness would never catch him. So again, here we have self-satisfied, overly confident really sticks out for this sentence, the overly confident antelope. And usually with complacency, there's essentially a sense that something bad's going to happen to this person because they're so overconfident that they won't see that there's a threat to them. So keep that in mind when using the word complacent. All right, so next word we have is contempt, which is a noun, which means disdain and hatred. So here we have Quinn looked at him with intense contempt. So we see how this is being used as a noun. She couldn't believe he had the nerve to say such a thing. Now another way that you can use the word contempt is contemptuous. So if you're going to use contemptuous, which is the adjective form of this word, you would say Quinn gave him a contemptuous look. So the word becomes descriptive of the look itself. All right. Next word we have is eloquent, which is an adjective, speaking well, articulate. So during graduation, Elle Woods gave an eloquent speech to her peers. You can also use this as an adverb. She spoke eloquently. All right, next word we have is virtue, which is a noun, moral excellence. All right, so in the sentence we have Pluto wanted to practice virtue. So it's a thing that he's practicing by making the morally sound decision. However, there is temptation at every turn. Now, virtue is a noun. If you want to make it an adjective, you would change it to virtuous. All right? So you can say the virtuous dog. You can also, so you would have the noun and the adjective. He had virtue, he was virtuous. All right, so next word is vital, which is an adjective, essential, necessary. So in order to properly protect your beachfront property, it is vital to invest in a dragon seagull, of course, that can fend off all forms of threats. Incredibly important. If you ever plan to move to the beach, get one of these. So vital is incredibly important. So know it's vital. It is an adjective. And there you go. Oh, one thing to know is you might, instead of saying it, where'd you go? It is vital, you might say it is vitally important. That's another way you could use the word, vitally important. All right, so guile, noun, cunning and deceitfulness, not good. Famed for his guile and greed, the Grinch, nice alliteration, developed a flawless plan in which he would ruin Christmas by stealing all presents, decorations, and joy. Oh, bummer. So guile is a noun, which is a lot of times people mix that up. It is a noun for his guile. It's a thing, just like greed is a thing that people can have. But if you want to turn this into an adjective, you change it into guileful. All right, so that one's a little weird, guileful. So the guileful Grinch, that's hard to say, guileful Grinch, is the adjective form of that. All right, so next word is biased, and we've seen a lot of words that have to do with this. So biased is linked to subjective and partial, and therefore the opposites of unbiased, objective, and impartial. So we have kind of a bunch of words building there. And it's an adjective, and it means prejudiced and not neutral. All right, so here we have biased from their headlines to their final sentences. The journal's articles consistently show only one point of view, that of its head editor. Uh-oh, that's not good. Good journalism. So here we have biased being used in a sentence. It is a adjective here, but interesting. So adjectives biased. Here this is actually being used as a verb, so that's something to keep in mind. So you can have to be biased, and therefore you have biased. But you can also describe something as bias headlines, which is a descriptor. So do know that it can be an adjective or a verb. All right, so next up we have censor, which is a verb, to delete objectionable material. So due to the explicit language, a great deal of music must be censored before playing on the radio. All right, cool. So censor is a verb, censored, censoring. If you want to turn it into an adjective, you can say censorious, which is a fun word. It has an I thrown in there, so it's not censorous, it's censorious, if you want to turn it into it. So the censorious mother bleeped out every single bad word so her 2-year-old wouldn't learn them. All right, next word. All right, vulnerable is an adjective capable of being harmed. So you might remember in another video we have the word immune. This is kind of the opposite of it. So immune means incapable of being harmed. Vulnerable means capable of being harmed. So here we have in the first weeks of its life, a kitten is vulnerable to disease, parasites, and other dangers. You got to protect them because they are vulnerable. It's adjective. All right, next word is hypocritical. It's an adjective. In its most simple form, hypocritical simply means insincere. So when we see it in the sentence, the capybara had promised to remain vegetarian for life, but these planty branches were just not cutting it. It may be hypocritical, but he was going to eat a hamburger for lunch and no one was going to stop him. So here in its more kind of complex definition, we know that hypocritical means to say you'll do one thing and then you do the opposite thing. Or you say you believe one thing, but you do the opposite thing. So it's to show or hold a certain belief, but then to violate that belief pretty immediately, making you hypocritical. So here the capybara is acting hypocritically. All right, so hypocritical is an adjective, and you can also phrase it as hypocritically as the adverb. All right, oh, and another form of it is hypocrite. So that is the noun. If someone's being hypocritical or behaving hypocritically, you can call them a hypocrite. All right, so next one is eccentric, which is an adjective. Odd, unusual, quirky. I like this word. I think it's good to be eccentric. All right, so here we have the eccentric dress of these 3 women spoke to their creative minds and refusal to follow norms. So eccentric is an adjective here, and it's referring to the fact of their unusual and quirky and for some odd form of dress. I think they look wonderful. All right, next word. Oops, too fast. Disdain is a noun. Contempt, intense dislike. Whoa. So here we have baby panda felt great disdain. It is a noun. It is a thing. So be careful with that. It's not an adjective. It's a noun. Over her friend's cheesy pun. Trust me, I'm completely dependable. Huh, that's funny. So disdain is the noun. If you want to turn it into an adjective, you would make it disdainful. So you'd say the baby panda was disdainful over her friend's cheesy pun. All right. So our next word is abstract. So it's an adjective, theoretical, lacking substance. All right, so here we have the abstract painting is viewed as brilliant by some and as nonsense by others. It depends upon the eye of the beholder. So abstract is something that's commonly linked with art, but you can also have something like an abstract concept, which is a concept that someone tries to explain to you, but it's very difficult to kind of pin down because it's too theoretical. It's not practical. It's not something that you can put into action because it lacks substance. So do know that while abstract is linked to art, it's also used outside of that in other forms of writing and speaking. Alrighty, so our next word is valid, which is an adjective, founded on fact or evidence. So something that's abstract, people are not going to often see as valid. Doesn't mean that it's not valid, it's just words that aren't, linked. So valid, determined to reach a valid conclusion, Lila ran the information she had over and over through her mind to consider all possible outcomes. So valid means founded on fact or evidence, and it's the idea that it's linked with the concept of truth. If something is valid, then it's truthful and correct, and therefore based upon sound evidence. So valid is an adjective. Keep that in mind. All right. If you want to turn that into a noun, you would turn it into the word validity, all right? The validity of the statement. So that's the noun form. All right, next word is subtle, which is an adjective. The B is silent. Don't say subtle. It's subtle. And that means not obvious, hard to spot. All right. At first, the changes in the seasons were subtle, but by mid-October, it was clear that the fall had arrived. And so you could, if you wanted to change this into an adverb, you might say the fall arrived subtly. All right. Cool. Next up, enigma, which is an adjective, is a mystery. So enigma is obscure. All right. It is not lucid. So here we have Patrick believing that he can never fully explain his reasoning to SpongeBob, dodged his friend's question. The inner machina of my mind, or machinations of my mind, are an enigma. Machina would sound better because it would sound cool with enigma. That's okay. Patrick still did a good job. So enigma is a adjective. Here it's being used as a noun, which is actually what I'm more commonly used to. So enigma is a noun. To turn it into an adjective, it actually should be enigmatic. So you would add T-I-C at the end. That's the adjective form. So you'd say the enigmatic thoughts. That's how the adjective forms. So this should say noun. So cross that out. So enigma is the noun. It is a mystery. I am an enigma. That's the noun. Enigmatic is the adjective. All right. So next up we have inevitable, which is an adjective. Unavoidable. Bound to happen. So here we have, due to the size of the storm, it would inevitably, so we added the ly, cover the entire island within a few hours. So we have inevitable, which is the adjective, inevitably, which is the adverb, and it means it's gonna happen, without any doubt. All right. Cool. So those are your words for this round. Make sure to go and use the practice slides so that you can prepare for the assessment. At this point, you've covered all 3 videos. So if you know the words for all 3 videos, you are ready. If not, go back and study, and then you can go ahead and take the assessment. Good luck. Thanks for watching the video.